because there's never a moment where you truly mastered it. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. You can train for 200 years and not master them. What does full mastery mean?
Welcome to It's Not About the Fight. I'm Ross Cameron, martial artist, coach, and lifelong student of combat sports. I've had the privilege of being able to work with some of the best in the industry, UFC champions, world-class jiu-jitsu competitors, and elite martial artists from all over the world. Now I'm bringing those lessons to you. Let's get to work. So we're lucky today to have Robert Drysdale in from Vegas and Demetrius Paloris here from Brisbane. And we're going to talk to Robert about all things around BJJ and combat sports. So Rob, good to have you on.
Thanks for having me, Ross. Nice to see you guys, Dimitri, everyone back, and everyone listening, or everyone back in Brisbane. And yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So Rob, what first got you into BJJ?
I don't know. I think, I think some things are just born within us. I don't think BJJ per se, but I was always attracted to combat and the soldier life. And when I was a kid, everything was Rambo or He-Man or G.I. Joe. And I wasn't interested in kites. I had to play soccer because I grew up in Brazil. If you don't play soccer, you don't have friends, basically. But it was more, it was not something I was like, initially I wasn't that interested. Later I fell in love with the game. But initially, I never liked cars and like other games that kids play. Like everything had to do with fighting, and the warrior life, right? So I think that was always in me. It was not something I thought I'd be doing for a living. It's just something I was drawn to. And when jiu-jitsu started to become popular in Brazil in the mid-90s, I was maturing around that time. I was a teenager around that time. So I think that the identity that jiu-jitsu promised was an identity that blended well with that warrior spirit I always felt I had inside me. It was like hand in glove kind of deal. Like when I saw jiu-jitsu, it was like, I don't even know what the hell they're doing, but that's what I'm going to do. Like it was very quick. It was love at first sight.
Was jiu-jitsu readily available for you at that time, though? It had peaked enough for clubs to be readily available for you to learn?
Not really. A lot of people don't know this, but jiu-jitsu was not popular in Brazil prior to Carlson Gracie. Very few people, even in Rio de Janeiro, even knew what jiu-jitsu was. It was not common. My hometown of Ep2, where I grew up, there was one BJJ school, and that's where I started training in 98. Actually, I had an experience with this style called Morgunchi Jiu-Jitsu, which is like a blend of, Kyokushin karate and judo. And I had like 6-month experience with them, and then they went out of business. And I thought it was a Carlson Gracie's jiu-jitsu. I didn't know the difference. I was there for like 6 months, and they went out of business. And then I went to a school, what we would call today Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I fell in love with it. It was the only gym in town at the time. And then, even when I was a white belt, they opened a second gym. Purple belt was teaching. Now, if you go back, there's probably 30 gyms. Every city, little small town in Brazil has 20 gyms, and it's the same. It's the same over here in the U.S. now. Like every street corner, there's a BJJ gym. It's sort of like a mania, really, and it's good and bad. Good and bad things, but it's definitely. I was able to witness that growth very, very closely in the U.S. and Brazil.
Yeah, I remember back in the 80s in America, there was Cobra Kai on every corner. Just about half the Karate Kid came along. So the growth happens very quickly. And then unfortunately, you start to see the other end of the scale where it starts to drop. So do you believe BJJ's peaked, or do you believe BJJ is still in its growth phase?
It depends what you mean by peak. I think there's two conflicting forces here: the democratization, popularization, commercialization, demographic growth on one side. And then there are the values, the Spartan life, the hardcore aspects of how much harder it was to get a black belt before, or all these other things that, I think they started to, they were very common. They were common practice in the 70s and 80s and up to early 90s in Brazil. And they started dying once people started seeing that you can make money from jiu-jitsu. And that's when the corruption kind of begins. It goes hand in hand with the process of popularization. I don't think there's a remedy. Like every martial art goes through this. The more popular you are, like the more corruption you're going to undergo. Because even if some individuals in the martial art are not corrupt, some will be, the majority will be. Most people will corrupt themselves for money and popularity and whatever. And it's changed a lot, man.
The antithesis of that corruption, or the lessening of the professionalism of instructors, with associations and people like yourselves where you've created Zenith and you've gotten a standard of teaching and of a style, do you think that has counteracted that corruptive movement?
I don't think look, I think the closest thing to it, to have like some kind of, because they're pulling forces, right? They're at war with each other. The more you grow in popularity, the weaker the other end is going to be. And I think we're definitely like losing that battle towards watering down the standards a little bit. It's very hard to keep them high because the truth is most people don't want high standards. People want a black belt, but they don't want to work hard for it. Like people want things handed to them. It's easier that way. They want Mount Everest, but they want a helicopter ride to the top and say it's the same view. It's the same view. What's the difference? I'm popular. I'm rich. Why do it the hard way? You know, the easy way is the same result. I'm like, is it the same? Is it the same view? Someone who climbed on the strength of their own legs versus someone that took a helicopter ride. I don't think it's the same.
Athletes modern athletes and modern jiu-jitsu guys are looking for the easy route, or do you think that?
Well, yeah. Athletes. I'll give you an example. Like half the problems I've had with my students over the years comes down to that. They want to be rich and famous, and it drives them crazy that I'm not helping them. It drives them insane. And I'm like, oh, you won Mount Everest? I've done it. I've helped other people do it. I know the route. I'll help you. But I'm not going to give you a helicopter ride to the top. First, because I don't know how to do that. Second, if I did, I wouldn't anyway, out of principle. I'm not going to do that because I respect you too much. Because I respect you too much and I believe in you too much for you to go the easy route. I believe you can do the hard route, which is the right route. You know, like people, it's not the same result, guys. You achieving excellence, right, through a sport and then maybe some money and notoriety as a side effect is not the same as you pursuing money and notoriety without having to climb the mountain the way you're supposed to. You know, and I think that my position is I respect my students too much and I believe in them too much to allow them to go the easy route. So I butt heads with them. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. You want to go the right way, the way that you're supposed to, I'll be here every step along the way with you. But if you just want to start networking and politics and spending your day on Instagram, kissing ass, all these fake friendships, I'm not part of that, man. I'm not into politics. Jiu-Jitsu teaches truth, teaches reality. It doesn't teach flattery. It doesn't teach politics. It's not what it's about. Like that was one of the reasons I fell in love with Jiu-Jitsu was that it was so real. It was so pure. It was so empirical. There was no politics. You want to be the man? You got to beat the man. Oh, you want to be the man? You got to beat Buchecha, 13 world titles. Go break that record. That's the standard. You understand? Like that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. And if you fall somewhere within that hierarchy, that's perfectly fine. But you fell within a hierarchy because you did the best you could and you follow the rules. You follow the system. You follow the code, the ethics of combat. You understand? What this generation has done is they did completely. There's no more hierarchy. I'm just going to get to the top. I talk my way to the top, and people applaud it and they reward it. And I'm against it personally.
Yeah, in martial arts, I think that the journey is the reward. So if you're trying to bypass the journey, you're missing the gold.
Yeah, I always say this: the hard work is the reward. I say this all the time. That's what people are missing. The mountain view, if you climb it through the struggles and the strength of your own legs, is not the same as if you're trying to network your way to the top. It's not the same view. I don't believe that. You know, I know this. There's a difference between a guy that built his wealth. Let's say you're obsessed with money. You built your wealth on the strength of your own back versus you win the lottery or you inherit that wealth. Is it the same person? Are they equals? They're not equals. No, they're not equals. No. But why is it that we're trying to, why is it that we're putting this highlighting the shortcuts? Because people, it comes down to this. People want the rewards, but they don't want the work that comes with it, right? Like they're falling short of the work ethic. And I think this is the biggest problem. It's going to water down the quality of the product. And what was extremely valuable will now become extremely invaluable because, or not valuable, I should say, because what's going to happen is people are going to find value somewhere else. They're going to go, because once it loses that boutiqueness of it, like you're no longer a member of the 300s. Yeah, you're just not part of that group. It's everyone gets a black belt or everyone is a fucking champion or everyone is a fucking superstar. Well, why would you it's going to lose its look. If everyone has everything they want, no one has to fight for anything. It gets handed easier and easier and easier. There's no value in that object. You understand? And people are going to look for it somewhere else. And that's what I think is going to happen to jiu-jitsu eventually. unless there's, some changes in the community. It's kind of happening already. Like sometimes I see things done and said and just the way it's going. And I'm no expert in the history of martial arts, but I know enough to know that, it's happened before. What has happened before is likely to happen again. These things tend to be very cyclical, and it's unfortunate, but I just don't see a way around it unless there's some radical changes.
Yeah, like I've been around martial arts since I was 4, and I've seen judo go through it. I've seen karate go through it. I've seen taekwondo go through it. They get really popular, and of course, when they become popular, we get people go into business, and then some of the people in business sell belts to make money rather than actually selling the tuition.
Actual qualification of it.
Yeah. And it just tends to water things down. And then it has another resurgence because people go, hey, that was wrong. You're still going to get those guys that are going to do that anyhow. But the good guys keep doing the good things and people know the difference.
And that's kind of what I'm hoping for, Ross, is I know I'm not alone in the community. I know a lot of people think like us and they go, like this is for the purpose of martial arts, it's not popularity. It's not Instagram followers. It's not money. It's not entertainment. Like all these things that people are obsessing over. There's a different value to this. And I hope we don't miss out on it. Because, if we don't come around and go, hey, hold up here, man, like this is education. Not for the purpose of the martial arts. If it's not improving on the individual, it's not doing its job. That's just my philosophy. And I think, judo, for all its faults, and I think judo has some technical faults. You can even question some aspects of its philosophy. But in general, I think what judo managed to achieve is that I think they came closest setting a structure of martial art to prevent corruption and keep it true to a purpose. And I think it's a reason why it never stopped growing. It's so cohesive. And even in the face of all the challenges like BJJ, poses an enormous challenge to judo. I don't think they're going anywhere, man. I think they're going to lose some ground. I think they're going to continue to lose ground to jiu-jitsu over the next 50 years. But I don't think they're going to disappear. When it comes to BJJ, it's less certain to me. And I have my differences with the IBJJF, of course, but I only see hope through them. It's the only place I see any longevity and hope in BJJ. It's like there's some things that everyone's going to have their own idea of what a martial art should look like. Sure, but in general, I support them because I look at them and I go, okay, this is an organization where I can see jiu-jitsu having hope of never going anywhere. At least there's a certain view of what jiu-jitsu is, a certain interpretation. There's a hierarchy, there are some rules there, and I can see them being around 50 years now. I have a hard time seeing other organizations or beliefs or groups of people like variants of BJJ around 50. I just have a hard time seeing that. I just don't think they have the right values or the right ideas or the why in place, right? Like, why are you doing this? What's the purpose of what you do? And I think a lot of people miss these things because they're living in the moment. Very like, immediate reward, make me money right now. And if it's not bringing money right now, then it has no importance. And I think we have to have a little more social responsibility in regards to these things and think long term. I think thinking long term is what's missing in the community.
Yeah, I've seen people don't understand too that the International Judo Federation, there's other judo federations out there, but the International Judo Federation is the one, and that's the one in the Olympics, and that's the one that has the structure, and that's the one that's been around the longest. And you get guys that compete in sport judo and all sorts of other bits and pieces, but the ones that it's at the Olympics, that's the International Judo Federation. I think the IBJJF will end up being that same sort of body for BJJ, where it's the gold standard.
The governing body of it.
Or not even the governing body, the gold standard. This is what the rules are. This is how it goes. Yeah. So
it kind of is that already. If you look at, for example, ADCC is the closest thing to competition BJJ has in terms of popularity, at least. I think the AGP, that Arab organization, they're doing really big things too in the Arab world and elsewhere. But I think when it comes to popularity, ADCC, or even like all these rule sets, really, they all come down to the IBJJF rule set. They're just for their variants of it, which is in essence 1975 rule set, which is like super interesting because it's the rule set that came to define BJJ, really. That was when BJJ was created, if you want to really get down to what we're doing. But 1975 rule set is the rule set that most people practice, just with variations, advantages, no advantages. Like Naga, there's 2 points for submission attempts instead of an advantage. If it's no gi, heel hook, no heel hook, some variations. But like IBJJF in today is the leading, it is the leading body. Like people may or may not recognize that. They don't claim that for themselves. I was just having a conversation with one of their representatives, white, interview for my new book. And he's like, look, we never saw ourselves that way. We don't care to be seen that way. Oh, it's not what we're trying to do. We're going to do ours. Well, this is what we believe in. This is what we're going to do. And if people want to follow our rules, they can follow our rules, but we don't have to worry about what other people are doing. We're just doing what we do. And I really think that's the right approach. They're not advocating or pretending to be the leadership. They're not acting like they are. They're just doing good work. And I think people will follow good work. You know, that's the tendencies. People are going to go, if you have the best, most organized gym in town, you don't have to brag about it being the best, most organized gym in town. People are going to gravitate towards it, right?
Yeah, it's why people buy Rolls Royce, isn't it? It's the best made car in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gold standard. So in your book, Opening Closed Guard, you talk about the history in depth. You go into the history of BJJ. What are some of the misconceptions that you believe there are around the history of BJJ?
I think that it's interesting because you can question aspects of the story, but there's still some frameworks in there that are very hard to remove. You can start asking questions like, what is a martial art? And that's where I end up. I go, how can I even define what is judo, what is jiu-jitsu, what is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? We have to first define the terms. What is it that how are we, when is it that a martial art changes? When does Kito-ryu stop being Kito-ryu and becomes Kodokan Judo? When is it that Kodokan Judo becomes Gracie Jiu-Jitsu? When does Gracie Jiu-Jitsu become Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? When does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu turn into no-gi or American Jiu-Jitsu? Like what is it that is separating these things? What is it that we can't consider these differences to be, and when they're radical enough to justify a claim that it's a new martial art or at least something different, right? You know, I think some things about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu are still very much judo, like the belt ranking system, the uniforms, obviously, the mat area, it's all judo. A lot of the little ways of judo thinking and ceremony and etiquette made its way into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It survived. It went through a radical change in Brazil, for sure. It's got a very Brazilian face to it. I argue in both books, really, that one of the reasons why BJJ became so popular is the beach culture of Rio de Janeiro that made its way into a martial art in the way that I've never seen it happen before. Before, they were still very Japanese in demeanor. You know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not Japanese like that. It's changed radically in Brazil. It's the flip-flops, the acai, the hang loose, the showing up 5 minutes late. You know, it's a very relaxed, like kind of beach-like environment. It's very, very Brazilian. And that's something a lot of people don't recognize, but that was a huge part of the growth. Jiu-Jitsu underwent many changes in Brazil. And, you know, the Gracie family obviously is central to this. Although it wouldn't be fair to say that they did it alone. Or even when you say something like the Gracie family, it's such a meaningless term when you think about it. Like, there's like 500 of them more. Like, are you telling me that all of them played a good role and all of them helped? Like, no, some of them did nothing. Some of them actually worked against it. Some of them did more harm than good. And then some of them changed it radically. Some of them were instrumental in having what we have today. Let's go case by case, individual by individual, instead of lumping them all in one group, like, oh, I am the member of the Gracie family. No, you did nothing. Like, you did nothing. There are plenty of people who are members of the family. They're way more than you. Last name does not give you automatic credit, you know, and I think a lot of people miss that. But it's some very radical shifts away from judo. And to me, at least, I think that warrant calling BJJ a new martial art, not just the rules, but in terms of cultural terms, especially. It's a very, very radical change. Although in methodological change terms, there's only so many ways you can do this. There are some similarities between Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and judo, but in technical terms, it's drifted a lot. In cultural terms, even more so. Like, I think the biggest change has been in cultural terms and the lifestyle that BJJ offers that I think perhaps judo lacks. That's what I hear from a lot of judokas that make the move to BJJ and why. The longevity of BJJ is the other one. There's a lot less impact. It's a little bit easier on the body than wrestling and judo. So you can roll at 50. It's hard to get thrown on when you're 50. You don't want to get thrown and, you know, get back up to your feet. That sucks.
But, there's a little group here in Brisbane that called Dojo Dinosaurs, and it's all the old judo guys that go out and they roll. They roll. They do niwaza. They don't actually do too much of the throwing anymore. Yeah, because we just can't handle it.
No, I can see that, man, and that's the IBJJF strategy for growth. They believe that their demographic is 50, 60. Like, not many martial arts you can do this in your 50s and 60s. Like, Carlson Gracie Jr. trains 4 times a week, according to himself. He's 67, and he was been doing this since he was 2.
Yeah.
You know, that's 65 years on the mats. Like that's, I mean, I think he's older than 67 now. So just think about that. That's remarkable. And I think that is a huge plus of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Their goal is to broaden their horizon and their demographic and make it a wider and wider audience. Like we were talking about, that comes with pros and cons, but you can't have everything you want. I have my view of things. In that regard, I'm old school. I welcome innovation and new techniques. But in terms of values, I think we've gone backwards, unfortunately.
Mm. So when you're coaching and you're dealing with athletes, how do you deal with an athlete that doesn't have enough confidence, and how do you deal with an athlete that's overconfident?
It's a very good question, because I deal with both. I think underconfidence is a bigger problem, but you get the other way around too. You know, underconfidence is one of the things that if they are just underconfident, but they have the heart and the willingness to change and they show up, I can help them. But if someone that doesn't have the confidence, doesn't show up and doesn't show me any willingness to change, I can't do anything about it. I can't perform that miracle. But if I see them showing up and I see that they care, right, they're bringing their heart to practice, I know how to get in their heads and change the way they think. I do this well. I've done it my whole life. I know how to it's just the first thing you got to do is gain their trust. And for them to trust you, you can't bullshit them. Like when my daughters were 5 years old, I told them that Santa wasn't real. My mom was pissed at me. My mom was losing her mind. And I told them that, yeah. So I told them the tooth fairy wasn't real. And then there was the dollar underneath their pillow, that was me. And they weren't mad. My daughters were like, oh, really? Okay, it's still $1, you know? So they still like Christmas because they get presents. But I told them that Santa wasn't real when they were 5. And I did that because I wanted to gain their trust. I wanted them to understand that daddy doesn't lie to you. So when I tell them something, you better believe it because I don't bullshit you. I'm never going to bullshit. I love you too much to bullshit you. Even if something is trivial with Santa Claus. So I'm not going to trivial on important things. I'm not going to lie to you on other important things. And I have the same kind of relationship with my students. Like I had this kid come in and he was very insecure, very like his first competition, there was no one in his division and he lost to a girl 30 pounds lighter than him by submission. That's where he was. Okay. And I told him, yeah, you're not good at jiu-jitsu, bro. You got a lot of it. And most people would have quit. Kid was almost crying. Like I knew I heard him when I said that, but it's something he needed to hear. For me to develop the kind of trust and relationship that I want to develop with them, you got to hear the truth. And the truth is sometimes hurtful. I told him the truth. The kid didn't quit. This truth will set you free. So when it hurt him, but he had the heart to keep showing. But I told him, if you show up, I can change that about you. Just keep showing up. Well, the kid wins tournaments now. He went from being one of the worst athletes, jiu-jitsu athletes I've ever seen in my life. Like this kid is never going to go anywhere. Like, he was like hopeless. He actually won. He won a Naga the other day, blue belt. I couldn't even believe it. Like, but now when I compliment him, he looks me in the eyes and he goes like this. He believes me, man. Because I went through that painful process of developing trust. I'm not going to lie to you. The day you suck, I'm going to say so. Right now, you're doing great. You're doing phenomenal. But when I say it now, I raise his confidence through the roof. You know?
So a student has to turn up with persistence and perseverance, right?
Dude, I cannot help them unless they have that. Like I've reached this conclusion. If a student doesn't have that, I am wasted as a coach. I can be the best or the worst. It's going to make no difference. But if you show me that you have heart and then you want it and then you care, that it means something to you, please stop by my gym. I want you. I want to meet you. You're the kind of student I look for. But it's just the truth is most people don't have it. It's all talk. And I don't mind the hobbyists, for the record. I love hobbies. Nothing wrong with standards that I don't apply to myself. You know, so the crowd that over promises and under delivers bothers me. I like the people that stand by their word or the hobbyists. Those two crowds I love.
But Rob, it takes a special somebody. There are a lot of fighters out there, but you know, you've competed before, and Rob, we definitely know your history of competition. It takes a special somebody then to become a teacher and to become a coach and then to become even an entrepreneur and start your own gym and run it. Not everyone can do that.
I hate business, man. I hate it. I mean, I always say I'm a martial artist who happens to own a business. I am cornered into a position in this world where I have to pay mortgage and I have bills to pay. So I have to run a business, but I don't like it. I'm not good at it. I never cared for it, to be honest. My heart's not in it. Most people from my generation that achieved what I achieved, they're millionaires today. I'm not even close to that. It's never been a top priority to me. Like I'm not saying it's not important or that we shouldn't pursue it. I'm not just saying that to me, it's not something I'm interested. So I have to do it, but it's not where my heart is. I love to teach. I love to coach. I am a martial artist at heart. I think so. I have a knack
I think there's a
for,
different reward as a martial arts coach or as a martial artist. The reward is different. You're not there for the monetary reward. It's nice. It's a byproduct, but the reward is watching somebody walk in the gym that's got no skills, and then 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the track, that guy's an absolute machine.
Completely different person too.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is though, is I think that the reward you're talking about takes a borderline like nirvana, like enlightenment to be able to appreciate, because you're not going to get that. You're not going to get the acknowledgement is internal. You know, you did something. Most people will not appreciate it. I have a legion of students that lived in my house. I fed and trained and paid for their tournaments and gave my heart and soul to them. They never said thank you. And that's the majority of people, man. I know I helped them, but for me to find internal satisfaction with so much ingratitude I'm not there yet, man. I'm working on it. So I could just look back and go, I did the right thing. I helped them. They're living in the United States because of me. I changed their lives for the better. I never charged a dime. I did it all for free and from the heart. Even if they don't acknowledge it and talk shit behind my back, they accuse me of being greedy because I make more than them, even though I never charged them or their families. It's fucking strange, man. I make more than you because I've done more than you. That's why. Not because I'm ripping you off. Not because I'm doing anything dishonest. People are bothered by these things, right? So they turn on you. I have to look internally and go and find satisfaction that I did the right thing and I helped them, even though I got zero back. Whether that is recognition, appreciation, or financial, is like, say goodbye to all that. You're just giving. You're not taking. It's not an exchange. When you're a coach, you have to walk into this life knowing that you're giving. If you have that mindset, if you have that level of enlightenment, which I don't have yet, I'm working on, I'm hoping to achieve it, then I think then you can live, you can be a coach and be happy. But you have to walk in this knowing, not expecting anything, really. Don't expect anything other than you're going to be giving.
So what's one of the biggest mistakes that you see coaches making with athletes?
It's falling to commercial pressures. And I get it where it's coming from. Like, and the coaches fall into it too. Sometimes they're not aware they're falling into it. They're just part of it. They don't even know it. Like the student, it's kind of like on your iPhone. They go on their phone and they want something. You know what the shorts are? It's crazy, right? Information went from you have to read a 800-page book to you read a 200-page book to you watch a 2-hour movie to you watch a 1-hour movie or to a documentary to, a 20-minute YouTube video. Now we're down to like 20 seconds. 5 seconds. If you can't get it out in 5 seconds, people are moving on, bro. They don't have the attention span, and jiu-jitsu is a little bit like that. It's kind of like the jiu-jitsu. It's like the Rolodex, It's just like, give me something new every 10 seconds, otherwise I'm bored. And I err on the side of, I want to teach. I want to help you. I want to give you what you need. So just today, we did the whole week, we did the same pass. And I made them ever do it live. And you can see them getting better. That's the crazy part about this conversation. You can actually see them improving. It's the boxing way. It's the wrestling way. It's the judo way. It works. And in BJJ, when I do that, I have all my higher ranking students rolling their eyes, sitting in the corner like, I already know that, coach. Why don't you give me new moves? And I'm like, because you can't do any of them. That's why. Because you suck at every single one of them. And if you were good, prove me wrong and go to the tournament and win with the armbar from close guard that you tell me you know. Oh, you know that armbar from close guard, do you? Okay. Walk in the next tournament and pull it off. Can't do it up because you don't know it. Right? So just follow my lead and shut up and listen. But the thing is, the crowd, the customer, I should say, wants to be rewarded. They want what they want. They want to be entertained above all. So they need something new every 5 seconds. And it's impossible to teach like that because at some point you're just satisfying curiosity. You're not really teaching them jiu-jitsu. You're just satisfying their curiosity over and over and over. And then they walk away satisfied, but they're not learning jiu-jitsu. I mean, if that were learning jiu-jitsu, you don't need me. Just go on YouTube. YouTube knows way more moves than I do. But that's nothing to do with coaching. And that's what these guys don't get. Like coaches don't get that because the culture in BJJ has developed in that way where we think that bombarding, they think that someone that's memorized 1,000 moves is a good good coach or a good martial artist. I'm like, bro, like you can't do any of them. Who cares? And you can't teach them either, because none of those moves you memorize, you can speak of with authority because you've never done it. You don't know the ins and outs, the angles, the nuances. So what are you talking about? You're just repeating what someone said online and you're acting like you know the move. I'm sorry. But having a good memory does not make you a good martial artist.
Yeah, it's the breadth or depth thing. I use the analogy that we all know how to ride a push bike, but Lance Armstrong won the Tour de France. But Lance Armstrong still won the Tour de France. Yeah, it's how well do you know how to ride the bike? If you can pass guard, great. Which guard pass? How well do you know that guard pass? Could you teach it to a beginner? Could you teach it to an advanced person? How much knowledge do you have around that?
You know, it's a problem of language, right? Like language is very problematic in these things. You say the word no. I either know or I don't know. So it's bipolar, right? It's one or the other. And it's not so simple because learning is not like that, is it? It's not I know or I don't know. What does that mean? Like it doesn't, like you start thinking about it, you stick it to jiu-jitsu. I don't know the move. Okay, I don't know it at all. You don't know nothing about it. You just never seen an armbar before. Well, you can never say that you know the move, really, because there's never a moment where you truly mastered it. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. You can train for 200 years and not master them. What does full mastery mean? It's a spectrum, but it's an infinite one. It's like numbers. It goes up. There's no end to it, right? So just you're always in pursuit of it, but you don't get there. So even like the language we use to describe these things is so problematic because it doesn't do justice to the discussion. It's more common. We have to find like how to reward these things to our students and try to put them in a different mindset, because the word itself, I know or I don't know, they put us in the wrong frame of mind. I deal with these like for example, with my students, it's like how you use the language. It's important because they have concepts attached. Yeah, they have meaning attached to those words. You understand? They have meaning attached to those words, and they're going to use that to draw other meanings from the attachment of that word. So, for example, when I say I don't say old school anymore, I don't say fundamental, I don't say basic, I don't say beginner. When I'm teaching, I do statistically common move. I have to word it that way, because when I word it that way, what happens is they see it under a very different light. Because if you say fundamental, they think it's a Nokia phone, right? If you say beginner or old school, they think it's a Motorola, right? They don't. No. I want the iPhone. I don't want the iPhone 10. I want the iPhone 15, or whatever. And that's where we're at. That's what happens. They want the new stuff. So you can't say fundamental. You can't say. I say the statistically common rules, because now I reframed it completely different. I framed it in a way where I go, this is what happens most consistently. So this is the ones that work best. I'm like, yes, the ones that work best. They go, oh, okay. Oh, I like that now. Now it's not old. You're just completely reframing the conversation. So I think that one thing that could help martial artists and coaches in general is to just rethink what kind of words we use when we're teaching our students and talking to them in general. And I'm trying to do that right now. It's difficult because I end up using the same words I've always used, but I think this clarifies a lot of confusion in martial arts and in terms of, methodology and learning and progress and mastery in general.
And look, I think, Rob, that actually separates what you've just raised, pardon me, is quite poignant, because that's what separates the everyday teacher out there who has a club with career people who are always looking at the best way to teach their students.
100%, because your job is to teach it. Remember, you're a teacher. You're not a hustler. You're not a businessman. You're a teacher first and foremost. Your job is to teach. We make money as a side effect of that. The purpose is to teach. But I think that too many people walk into this and they see a cash cow. And it's coming from the leadership too, man. It's not coming from the bottom. It's not coming from the bottom. Look at the crap. It's not coming. The bottom are the purists. You're going to find the purists at the bottom, if anything. It's the corruption is coming from the top. Like it's coming from people that are setting the trends and like Instagram influencers and the people who have the biggest microphones in the community. Just watch their behavior. It's corrupt through and through. It's about the money. It's about politics. It's flattery. Kiss the ass of the right people. That's how you're going to make your way to the top. And it works because the people, look, the internet just exposed something that was always there. The way to make yourself to the top is being a phony. Try to talk some truth in the community. People are going to hate you. Like I pick fights with people all the time because I try to be that way. I'm not always that way, but I try to. I pick fights with everyone in the community. Basically isolating myself in some ways.
Do you
because
think people are
can't.
getting a whole lot more savvy, though? They're recognizing the fakes in the industry or the
No,
people
man.
who are.
I heard the other day, like a student, I don't know, man. Like I'm not going to mention his name, but he was showing like shoulder pressure from side control. And instead of just saying shoulder pressure, he called it a cranial shift. Cranial shift. You're shifting his cranium. You know, he's cranial. Like, it's like, what are you doing, man? Like, they're just using these retarded words, and it doesn't even make sense. But it's just, they're just trying desperately to act like they know something they don't. Like this new like ecological training people are talking about. I'm like, you're giving them a purpose and a direction in the match, and like as opposed to what was the other method doing? Because I'm curious, like, you're acting like you're reinventing the wheel. People have to always reinvent something old to act like they're doing something new. And I don't think I don't know, man. I don't see enough skepticism. Like, I look at this stuff and I'm going like, what is different? Like, what is it that you guys are reinvented here that I don't know? Like, I'm not seeing anything new. And not only that, you're going to have a hard time telling me that anyone in BJJ can do something, create a methodology that is more efficient than what Olympic level coaches in Russia have been doing for hundreds of years, you know, or judo trainers or boxing trainers. Like, I have a hard time convincing me that our methods are better than theirs. That some guy, you know, with like, 10 years of jiu-jitsu can create a better methodology than those guys. I have a hard time believing that. So I don't think the community is awake, man. Like, I think people are just, they drink the Kool-Aid daily. And I see this from smart people too, because they get overwhelmed with it. And then some of these people control the narrative. So, if you're walking into jiu-jitsu today, it's very easy to fall prey to these guys. But like, cranial shift.
So do you think, Rob, like the YouTube jiu-jitsu guys, the Instagram jiu-jitsu guys, there's some guys out there that are trending because they come up with the cool names for things. And
yes, look, I've the only thing, there are very few things I see that are really new. For example, there's a lot of heel hook attacks that really are new. You know why? It's not because purple belts today are smarter than they were 30 years ago, even though they like to think so. It's because it was illegal. It's like getting good at eye gouging. Why isn't anyone good at eye gouging? Well, because it's illegal. Why bother? I mean, you could practice twisting fingers too. I'm sure there's tons of techniques to twist fingers, but we don't practice it. It's illegal. It's the same thing with heel hooks. So they didn't practice it. My generation didn't practice them, or barely, because they're illegal. Simple as that. Once they're made legal, or tournaments at least that are allowing them, then yeah, sure, there's going to be some evolution. There's some new stuff there that I'm super interested in. But in general, man, the majority of things I see, like, it's just the same old shit. They just revamp it, add a new name, make it sexy, spin it around, like do a thing or two slightly different. But the core of it is the same stuff. Like, I have a hard time falling in love with, and this is a huge mistake coaches make. They put this hyper focus on that. Right, on trends, and then when it comes to the psychological aspect of things, or the methodological aspect of things, or even the hierarchy on the mats, or other things that create a strong group like loyalty, they're completely either amiss about it or they're militant against it, which is like so bizarre to me, because like I thought it was about performance, and if it's about performance, then we have to optimize it every way we can. And I think there's this hyper focus on novelty and entertainment. And this is in detriment to performance. And it's very obvious to me, like, why this is happening. But, people don't think so, because you can't, if you start talking about true performance, Ross, you can't sell an instructional. There's no money to be made from it. So why are you going to highlight something you can't make money from? It's too simple. Shut up and train. But now, if you're going to tell people that you reinvented the wheel, and you're going to call shoulder pressure the cranial shift method or system, then you can make money from that. So if there's a hyper focus on the things that are financially rewarding instead of the things that are actually practical for purposes of performance.
Yeah, it's interesting, because like back in my day, we used to call combinations different things, because when you went to fight, you didn't want to say, "I'll throw the 1-2," because the other corner would go, "Watch out for the jab cross." So we would call them different things, but that was just a way of using code to get your fighters to do things. But now they change names like it's left, right, and center just to be cool.
No, I remember, like, look, it really is a training thing. Remember, like in the 80s, guys were doing like all sorts of like spinning kicks and fucking nunchucks, whatever. And to each their own, okay? To each their own, man. Like, I don't judge. Like, there's some things I see in other martial arts that I go, there's no fucking way that would work in a fight. But hey, if it makes you happy, to each their own, But jiu-jitsu's become that. Like, you're watching this lapel stuff, this butt scooting stuff. I have a very objective view of things. There are things that are eternal. They're not going anywhere. There's a reason why they're not going anywhere. They work. Jab, right hand, cross, single leg, double leg, head and arm, guillotine, rear naked choke. There's like, I've narrowed it down. I actually have a list of moves that I pulled from UFC statistics. It comes down to 40 moves that we actually use. It's the first, I'm putting together like a curriculum. I call it the first empirical curriculum because there's nothing like that. It's always speculation. I think this would work, or I like these moves, therefore they're going to make it with curriculum, which is not the best way to approach things. Like how efficient is this move, right? And these are the things that would last, as long as there's combat in a dual format, they're going to be there. Like more than one opponent and weapons notwithstanding, these techniques will always be there unless human anatomy changes. So when I see lapel guard and I see like some of those spinning kicks that don't work, I'm going, it's going to go. It's going to go. It's just a matter of time. Because and I said this the other day in a podcast in Brazil, and Bruce Lee fans were losing their minds. And I don't mean to offend. But you have to be objective and truthful in these things. But if the trapping system were so great, you would see it in the UFC. Like I'm saying, I'm like, if there's some of these things, I'm not against them. Like, hey, but I'm saying that when it comes to objectivity, lapel guard, you can't obviously use a lapel guard in the UFC. But even if you had two guys walking in there in the geese to fight, if lapel guards are such a great idea when punches are involved, you would probably see them in that sort of duel. But you wouldn't see it if punches are involved because it wouldn't work. Neither would butt scooting. So, like, you have to be practical about, like, what is it that the things that are objectively efficient in combat. And to me, that's the direction we should be pursuing when it comes to teaching, and I think a lot of people miss these things because they fall in love with what they know. This is what I know, so I'm going to keep teaching, and just passes on. But it's not optimized for purposes of performance. It's more to the tune of what they like and are comfortable with. You understand? And again, I don't mean to offend, to each their own. There's value in anything that gives your life purpose and meaning and helps you work out and keeps you healthy. Hey, run with it, But I think if we're talking about performance, like, it has to be more objective, and this goes for all martial arts.
So we're coming to the end. And if you could roll with one person or train with one martial artist out of history, who would it be and why?
Oh, Carlson Gracie. I think Carlson was, to me, one of his American students said this in private conversation with me the other day, and I couldn't agree more. He said, Carlson is the definition of a true great martial artist, like a great grandmaster. Like, he checks every box. To me, he checks every box. The reason we don't see him that way, all right, is because our traditional understanding of a great martial artist or grandmaster is that guy in the Bruce Lee movie with the long white beard that talks like Master Yoda. I don't buy that character. I think it's a phenomenal character for movies and cartoons. But in the real world, I'm very suspicious. Anyone who's talking more than they're doing is like already raising red flags. Carlson did it. He fought the best of his time. He was the best coach of his time. He had a heart of gold. He put martial arts and the growth of jiu-jitsu ahead of everything else, including his financial standing, his personal life. He was a man dedicated to his students and the art he loved. Huge charisma, not pretending, not flexing, not bragging, hence why no one knows him. To me, he checks every box, man. Like, sure, he was a goofball, he didn't play the part that people expect him to play, but that's a character, that's lore, it's a stereotype. When it comes down to it, man, like when it comes to the ethics of combat, I think a guy like Carlson checks every box.
Great. Well, thanks for your time, Rob.
Good to catch up again, mate. Good to see you.
Likewise, man. And we got we got to start planning my trip to Australia this year. We'll come back this year at some point. Miss you guys, and hopefully get you guys out here.
Yeah, we're planning. I think we're planning to head up in about June. I think at the moment, so maybe we come up for the US Nationals.
Yes, we have the Nationals in end of June, so we always have a shot at getting on that podium if we work together as a team. The problem is getting people here, So maybe this year.
Yeah,
great.
Well, awesome. Good to see you on your turf, mate. We've always seen you here.
Yes, you guys owe me a visit, so just anytime.
Thanks, mate. See you soon.
I love you guys. Thank you so much.
See you, Rob. Thanks, mate.
Thanks for listening to It's Not About the Fight. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and keep up the hard work on and off the mat. Stay tuned for my next chat with another top coach or athlete.